Series Veep, a semi-retired correspondent for The Daily Show, an industry expert, and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, Dan Bakkedahl. Welcome, Dan.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. Oh, I'm gushing later. I got more of that later.
Oh, good. Thank you.
For you, our audience here, this is an informal interview. You'll have the middle section of this interview to ask Danny questions one-on-one or 1-on-30 or however you guys want to do it. But to start, I'm going to dig into the questions, give you kind of a sense of background about what we're doing here, and we'll go from there. You know, we know, Dan, that you're on Legit, you're on Veep, and you do other stuff as well. Could you tell us what's a regular week for you like? What's your work week like?
Well, I mean, that's the interesting thing about being an actor in television and occasional film and sometimes commercial work is that the regular week is spent a lot like a homeless person's week, which is, oh, why did I spend that money last week because I need it this week? So quite frankly, on weeks when I'm not working, it's taking the kids to the school, calling the gardener. I have a gardener.
Wow.
Getting the car washed, scooping the litter box, that kind of stuff, and then auditions and so forth.
Yeah, but if anybody needs a gardener, I'm pretty sure it's you.
Oh yeah, it's me. It's me.
But
I have a pink thumb.
Do you have conflicts though when you're in production on Legit? Now you're out now, right?
Right.
You're done for
Correct. Both Legit and Veep have wrapped for the year.
But do you find conflicts? I mean, are you able to work out your scheduling conflicts between the two?
Well, the nice thing, Joe, is that you pay people to take care of those things for you. That's what commissions are all about. Agents and managers take care of the conflicts. So, for instance, this year, Legit was 2 or 3 weeks into shooting season 2. Yeah. And we got a call with an offer from HBO for season 3 of Veep to come in and reprise the role of Roger Furlong. And I was in production on Legit. Yeah. And Legit has what we call first position, which means they own you for as long as they say they need you. Right. If they wanted to, they could say, we need them. And then they could go sit in that corner and don't do anything for 2 weeks. Right. They wouldn't because they have to pay you. But, right. Anyway, I was unable to go to Baltimore to shoot Veep that week because Legit needed me. Right. And Legit is my home. That's my home base. Those guys are my brothers. Right. And so as much as I cried a little in my beer about the opportunity to go play with the good folks in Baltimore, I said, it is what it is. And it'll come around, or it won't, and it wasn't meant to be. So they take care of that for you. Right. And production on both sides says, well, what if we do this and what if we do that? Legit says, well, what if we can get them on a plane Saturday morning? And Veep says, we need to have them to shoot Saturday morning. Can you get on a plane Friday night? Legit says no, and Veep says, thank you. We'll call later. And they work it around. Yeah. Wonderful. Hey, tell me, especially regarding Legit, how much influence do you have over the creative process, if any at all? Yeah, quite a bit. Legit is... it looks like it. It really, I just got off the phone with Jim Jeffries. He's the creator. He's a brilliant Australian stand-up. Don't watch it with your children in the room. Yeah. But these are most of my children, by the way. Right? No, not your kids. They're kids. Don't have kids. You have kids, don't you? You guys have kids. You guys are adults. There's adults back here. But it don't have. It's not G-rated. Yeah. That's for sure. But I think the language though of Legit, it's very normal language. Do you know what I mean? I think what you have done is just you've incorporated regular language, better than regular language into that. Absolutely. I think Legit is a very honest look at males with lack of a better term, arrested development emotionally. Sure. They've not developed beyond what they learned when they were seniors in high school and juniors in college as far as social skills and what you're supposed to do to strive to be as an adult. It's all about smoking bongs and drinking beer. That's what they do. And it's not like they go, this is the life. They go, what are we doing? Yeah. Yeah. But I love the language, and both shows that you're in, I really find the language to be pretty compelling because Veep has its own, language as well, and you are a fine purveyor of that language as well. Yeah, it's interesting. My experience with Veep was I tested for the original pilot of the series, and Matt Walsh got that role, and Matt. Matt's a fantastic guy, and he's perfect in that role. Yeah. And then I was offered the role of Roger Furlong, which wound up being a better fit for me anyway. A little more acerbic, much more angry kind of guy. And the language, I looked at it from looking at the series that it's based on, which is a British series called The Thick of It, which you can also Google. don't watch that with the kids in the room anyway. I said, I don't know if I can do this. God, it's lightning fast. I mean, it's kind of like a Shakespearean approach to comedy where it's like acting without breathing. Just memorize all that stuff. Take a big breath while they're speaking. When they're done speaking, you just you just unleash, you know. And I found in the very first rehearsal, they sit down with the script, they do a table read, you get up on your feet, and you rehearse.
Yeah.
And then you rehearse, you put the script away, and now you improvise. And I found in that very first rehearsal, one, a comfort level with Julie Louis-Dreyfus that I did not expect from somebody of her fame and experience.
Yeah, magnitude.
Whoa, I mean, immediately relatable and extremely generous.
Yeah.
And I immediately felt at home, and I said, I can do this.
Yeah.
You know, which is key. I mean, if you're sitting around going, I can't do this, you've never been more right in your life.
Yeah.
You know.
I will tell you, Julia punched me in the shoulder at a Christmas party a million years ago, and I didn't deserve it. Well, I did, but not for the reasons she thought.
I'll tell her.
Yeah. But now, I would have assumed that Roger Furlong was created for you. You have matched, you've embodied the character so much. I wonder if they didn't see you and then say, there's an opportunity here. Because the character's perfect in the context as well.
Right. If you can believe what you're told, and so rarely can you in show business believe what you're told.
Sure.
But I was told that it was written for me.
Yeah.
In the process of auditioning for, I originally was brought in to read for the role that of Gary, which is the role that Tony Hale does. Thank you very much, but no.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen.
Next.
And I said, I really think I'm supposed to be reading for the part that Matt's doing. And Matt and I had very different reads on it. Matt read it the way Matt does it.
Right.
And I did it like, yeah, whatever. And my read on Mike was very much dismissive of her, rude, and she would stop and go, excuse me, I'm the vice president. And I would go, whatever.
Yeah.
And they laughed, but it's not right for the role. And then as they were writing the series, because they write, while they're shooting one, they're writing two. And while they're shooting two, they're writing three. So if you want to write, you're ready for that type of life.
But doesn't that give you then a sense of like freshness to the work too?
Sure.
Like, you know, you're getting handed the stuff right out of the oven?
Absolutely. And the same thing happens on Legit.
Yeah.
You know, Jim will write a script. He'll call me from his car and go, mate, I just wrote this great script. I got this idea, and you're going to do this. You're going to get in your underwear walking down the highway. You're going to rip a bear off of a pole where obviously a child has died in a car accident. You know, and you're like, what? What are you talking about? And in the week before, because we on Legit, they write all 13 scripts ahead of time, and they get them okayed by the network ahead of time, and then we start shooting.
Yeah.
But while we're shooting episode 9, something happens through improvisation in the moment of creating that episode, and they go, we got to add this to episode 10.
It just works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens on V.
And when you say improv, and this is a big issue for a lot of us, the scripting process is really critical to a lot of people in the room, but improvisation as well. You're handed a script.
Right.
You've rehearsed it, you've blocked it, you've walked it a couple of times, you've had a director or two. Is Cleveland on the set with you guys, by the way?
No, Rick Cleveland was there for season 1. He's moved on. I don't know where he is now. He was on House of Cards for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy is, he's everywhere.
He can kind of land where he wants to land.
Another Chicago guy.
Yeah. I remember him from, what was the theater?
American theater.
Yeah.
American Blues.
American Blues with, what's her name? I can't remember.
Did my
her
homework.
name. Yeah. So you do have, when you have the capability to improvise, or when you have the opportunity, it's you've gotten the script, you've had the rehearsal, and then they say to you, give us more, or give us something, or
What they usually do is, all right, good, we got it. Let's do one for fun. And on Veep, that means everything except the room can change. I might go, this whole time I've been standing here, I'm going to go sit in the corner and pick dirt out of the plant. And they go, whatever, have fun.
Yeah.
You know, on Legit, it'll often be, all right, let's do one that's loose. Because it's just the nature of the thing. The, Veep is handheld. A lot of the lighting is done from the sky, so they could do this at any time. It wouldn't matter where you are. On Legit, there's 60 guys standing there going, you know, if you turn the camera around, you're going to catch Walt Lloyd, the DP, going, what? And that's not something you want. It's a handsome fella, but you don't want him on camera.
Now, but on Veep, though, when you say that, now, I assume your production crew has to be as improvising as you do.
Oh, yeah, those guys are, I mean, the director of photography is a guy named Jay Feather on Veep. And I got to tell you, you know, it's baffling how they pull off what they pull off. The last day that I shot on Veep was beginning of February. We shot 30 pages of dialogue in one day. Now, it was a room about this size, you know, and it was set up like an event, you know, at a college. So there's like signs and bunting and stuff like that. And all the lighting was in these helium balloons up in the sky. So there were no light stands or anything like that to get in the way.
Yeah.
And the boom is standing behind the camera. And if the camera does that, the boom goes like that. Everyone's on toes at all times.
Choreographed.
So it's a little easier to do 30 pages because you just shoot the whole thing. And the camera just kind of picks around the room.
Was
and
that the
picks people
daughter's
off.
party?
No, this is a different, this is for season 3, something I can't talk about. I don't know anything about it.
I had another question for you, but I'm blank now.
Perfect.
So there.
Good one. I like that one.
I know, I'm with you. Hey, listen, we're going to go a little bit into your history as well, if that's okay.
Sure.
What were your earliest studies in performance? What did you, I mean, how far back do you go?
I was going to college in St. Cloud State up in Minnesota.
Yeah.
And I was taking acting classes because I loved performing. I always knew I wanted to be an actor.
You did?
My brothers made a Saturday Night Live in our house with our giant VHS camera in 1970. What was the first season? 78 was the first season?
75 would have been SNL.
75 was the first. So they would have done this in 78, so it was 3 years in, right? SNL was a huge thing in our house.
Yeah.
I was too young. I was 8. So I watched The Muppet Show, which is
SNL.
SNL
It is.
for kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. And better. And so
Yeah,
this is an opinion, but that's what I grew up on.
I got to ask, why SNL? Why never SNL? Did you ever get a callback? Did you ever get
no,
it?
I don't.
It's not your thing.
I don't. No, I think it was. It was. I mean, I think I blew it. If you'd asked me 6, 7 years ago, I'd have been like, because they don't know what they're doing. I could tell you, I blew it.
Did you?
Yeah, we
Tell
had
us.
I'll tell you. They came to town. I was doing the Second City main stage, and they came to town, and they loved our show. So they came back the next night. They sent us a fruit platter or with meat platter, and that means they really like it. And they said, let's go out, and we all went out for drinks, and we're sitting there, and they asked me some questions about Rich Tallarico and some other people. What do you know about John Lutz? And so I don't know. And then I said, can I ask you a question? They said, yeah. And I said, are you here to actually hire someone, or are you just here to make us nervous? Because I was extremely nervous and really freaked out. Yeah. And at the time, I didn't have the coping skills of an adult, even though I was. I was probably 34 at the time. And I acted like a 14-year-old. I mean, worse thing, but not even a teenager. I mean, it was like something a 10-year-old would say, like, Grandma, why are your teeth so weird? It's like that. I think, and I'm not saying that had I not done that, I would have gotten the job.
Yeah.
I don't know that I ever showed them what I could do. I don't know that when I was on the Second City main stage that I personally ever really accomplished what I should have accomplished as a performer. I think my own fear of success or failure, whichever one it was, kept me from really putting in the full effort.
Right. But okay, it's my turn to gush a little bit here. The one thing I will tell you about Danny, as a kid, I call him Danny, he's Dan. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, seeing him and auditioning him as a young man, the one thing I have been struck by in his early career was the hard work. I mean, the hard work he poured into what he did every time he did it. So as an executive producer back in that day, it was easy for me to go, if I need an A-team, Dan's going to be on it because I know he's going to deliver something. Shows up early, stays late, has ideas, offers concepts. And if there's something in the script that he sees that he can make better, he makes it better. And doesn't ask if it's okay, and doesn't ask, a lot of time or effort or space to do that. So the reason I tease him about this in front of him now is because this is a guy who takes hard work that leads to opportunity. It's not luck with Dan. It's not timing with Dan. It's hard work over and enough, and then exploring the opportunities till those two match up, till the hard work and the opportunities just start to click. And while he says SNL, was Marcy Klein, was it Marcy still doing it at the time?
No, it was...
yeah, she was...
The guys that came were the
Was Lauren there?
Lauren wasn't there. Well, Lauren was there the night that I after I was done with Second City, they came back to town, and I got seen over at I.O.
Right.
And I was a little more put together then, kind of had my life together in a way that wasn't getting in the way anymore. But I think I was a little too emotional for an improv show. I did the monologues in Armando, and they were there to watch Armando, and I started talking about my cats, and I cried on stage. I was like, and my little cat, Misha, he's, this little guy, I'm sorry, this is really weird. And I thought, oh, man. But that happened the night after I auditioned for The Daily Show, and they went, you got the job.
Oh,
and so I went into the SNL thing going, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter, which is a great attitude to have for any environment of audition or something, because the more you care and it matters, the more you look like, really, this guy looks like he's, crawling through the desert for water.
Do you have that today? Do you feel like, whatever it is, just bring it on, I want to run in and enjoy?
Yeah, first of all, let me say thank you for what you said.
Oh, no.
No, but that's, and I want to say this too, that I believe that it's not just about hard work. And this is something Jim Jeffries taught me, because this is a guy who works his tail off and is a very successful comedian. And there are a lot of very successful comedians out there. But he talks about the difference between luck and fortune.
Yeah.
And luck requires nothing other than walking in and going, I found a lottery ticket. It's a winner. That's luck. Fortune is, I've been working, I've been trying, I've been trying. The right person's in the house on the night that I do it right. Bam.
Yeah.
And it happens. And that is what happened.
Yeah.
I worked my tail off for that Daily Show audition and walked in there healthy, happy, bright, shiny, ready to do it. And it didn't matter if I got it or not. And they saw that and they said, we want you.
Yeah.
Now, to the question,
Yeah.
which is, do I just say, let me get it, I'll just charge in there? Yeah, depending on the project. I mean, I just did the ETC set the other night. I went in and did the improv set after the show and stood on the back line like this. It's a stage I've performed on hundreds of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
In front of just another audience. And
Yeah.
I was going, I can't walk out there.
Yeah.
I can't walk out there.
But that's okay,
They
too.
don't know me. I don't know them. I can't do this. And I
Sure.
went, what is happening?
Yeah.
So the answer is sometimes.
Yeah. Hey, St. Cloud to Florida State, go Noles, by the way.
Yep. How about it?
And what were your experiences at Florida State then? Did you did
Oh.
more theater?
Yeah, I did. The theater, that's where I actually started doing theater, because at St. Cloud, I just took classes.
Yeah.
But you can't be an actor because you can't make a living as an actor, right? That's the thinking.
Right.
Because that's what parents and even teachers will say sometimes, like, look, hey, come on. I wanted to be an actor too, now I'm teaching.
Yeah.
Curb your enthusiasm, kid.
Yeah.
And I went to Florida State and I was taking the classes, and I had an instructor named Michael Ritchie who, and this is why educators and good educators, and this is what you were to me as well, educators, mentors, advocates are so important. If someone takes the time to tell you, I believe in you, do them the service of making their words mean something. And this guy told my parents, I think this kid could make a living if he actually applied himself.
Isn't
If he
that
actually
great?
Applied himself, if he actually applied himself. And I went, all right,
Yeah.
challenge taken. I'll apply myself, because here's the thing. When I fail, I'm going to be standing right here in front of you telling you said I could do it, and it didn't happen. I'm proud to tell you I was
Yeah.
in New York last year after shooting Veep, and I went up there, and Michael is in New York.
Yeah.
Giving it a go as an actor now.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I bought him breakfast, and all I can do is say thank you and buy him breakfast. I can't do much more than that.
That's
and
enough.
he said, you don't owe me breakfast. And I said, I absolutely do. He said, this is my job. And I said, you went above and beyond your job, because you gave somebody the confidence to believe in themselves to follow a thing.
Yeah. Well, two things I got to add to that is years ago, hiring Dan and his generation, people would come up to me afterward and say something about a show. Oh, that show was so great. You directed it well. You really produced it well. I used to kid him all the time. When you put him and Poehler and Matt Walsh and a couple of other people on stage, you get to look like a genius real easily. But the other part of this, and it's for you guys too, it's a lecture I give to a lot of my writing students. Your parents love you and they care about you, and they're supposed to, and that's what they do. But if you're going to write, if you're going to act, if you're going to direct. Be a failure at 43, not at 28 or 26. I always say to the parents too, if you've got to go to your parents and ask them for money when you're 26, that's their job. They had you. They're supposed to give you money then, okay? I'm in that age, and I give my children money because they need
Certainly
money.
my experience.
Yeah, so let them have it. But be what you're going to be. Dan's a testament to, again, that the hard work meets the opportunity at some point.
And I want to say something to that too, Joe.
Yeah.
That, the mistake that we make as creative people is we think, well, I'm a writer, but nothing's been made, so I'm not a writer. And that's
Yeah.
a load.
Yeah.
Because a writer is not a person who gets paid. A writer is a person who writes. A writer is not a person who gets gold statuettes. A writer is a person who writes. A singer is a person who sings. An actor is a person who acts. So act. My grandfather on my stepdad's side was a brilliant businessman, brilliant mind.
Yeah.
And he told my oldest sister one day, he said, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "Well, I want to sing." And he said, "Then you sing every day." I mean, come on. The guy went on to be a millionaire in business. He knew what he was talking about. And somehow he understood the most basic thing about art. And he didn't know anything about art. He just knew something about life, which was, if you're going to be that thing, then be that thing every day. Don't let somebody else's accomplishments tell you that you have not accomplished that. Because if you've got the stick-to-itiveness to get up and actually write, you've got something I don't have. I want to write. I don't know how. I sit down and I go, yes, I can do it.
Yeah.
Well,
you write. You just write using
I
your
just
mouth
write
instead
here.
of your hands.
I write right in front of you.
Give him a round of applause for that last thing. I hope you guys like that. I like that as much as this. I was going to ask you a little bit about Rochester because, as I recall, that was the real birthplace of Norwegian rap, wasn't it? And wasn't that Rochester,
Minnesota?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know there was a Norwegian rap effort going on.
I thought you were big into that. No.
Oh no.
I must have been told wrong.
Yeah,
so tell us about your early influences, your motivators. The present company you can exclude, but give us some of the big ones.
Well, the earliest influences would be cassette tapes of George Carlin and Cheech and Chong and Bill Cosby and Rodney Dangerfield.
Stick around later. I'll explain what cassette tapes are. You guys just
Yeah.
wait afterward.
Yeah.
I'll show you one.
It's a lot like an iPod, except it has only one thing on it, as opposed to everything on it. Sorry, I said iPod. That's probably old already.
Yeah. So Carlin.
So it started there, and then it morphed into the Steve Martins and things like that.
Yeah.
Of course, SNL and SCTV, and then there was a show called Fridays.
Oh yeah.
Which was of course Michael Richards.
Yeah.
And a lot of people. I'm going to forget names, so I'll just move on. And television shows like MASH and Barney Miller and All in the Family, things that guys my age shouldn't have been watching.
Yeah.
But I was watching. And the Muppets, things like that, right? And then the older I got, it becomes the Eddie Murphys and so forth. But when I got into college, I had a friend in Florida State. I had a friend that was doing improv with a group that was from Orlando called the SAC Theater. And they had a group named Whammo Players, because you got to have a funny name. And they performed at a bar, and he didn't get in a play that year in the theater school. And I said, then go audition for this improv troupe. You're funny. Yeah. And Sean Daniels is his name, and he's now artistic director of the Jiva Theater up in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah.
And he went and auditioned. He started playing with them, so I started going to all their shows. And I just sat there going, "Wow, I can't believe it.
Yeah.
They're making it all up now, And I said, I really want to do that. I don't know how, but there you go. I went with a touring company across the country, came through Chicago, went to the Second City because we had studied it in college, saw the main stage review, and I said, this is it. I saw all the pictures on the walls. I saw all the people that I respected and loved. There were comedic actors, the Bill Murrays, the Alan Arkins, old pictures of Alan Alda, Compass players.
Yeah, right.
And I said, that's it. I'm moving here. I'm doing that.
Yeah.
I guess I'll have to work at the Steppenwolf first, because then that way you can get on
to
Second City.
Start low.
That's the way it works, right?
Yeah.
Start low and
build
work your way
up.
up, Joe.
Yeah.
So then I got to town, and at that time I saw the review, and then I left, and I came back and moved to town, and I saw the review, and it was Rachel Dratch.
Yeah.
And I fell in love.
Wasn't she amazing?
Who is this unbelievable creature? Television has not done her the justice it owes her.
Right.
And I hope to God she sticks with it and continues to do what she does so well.
Yeah.
She doesn't know me, but I know her. And I look and I say, it's a shame that she's not at the level of an Amy Poehler, that she's not at the level of a Tina Fey.
She's got the brain. She's got the talent.
And I'll bet you Tina Fey would say the same thing. So that's where I said, oh, I'm in the right time. I'm in the right place.
Well, Dratch used to sleep on my couch for a good year and a half, crying that SNL wouldn't give her a call back.
Yeah.
And then what she did, like you would have done, I told her at the time, write. You've got to write more, control your own destiny more.
Yep.
So she went to New York, and they wrote Dratch and Fey.
Yep.
Did it at UCB, and then Marcy Klein came in and said, okay,
Phenomenal
you're done.
show, which Adam McKay directed.
Yeah.
and I went and saw that show.
Brilliant.
With, at the time, my improvising partner was Miles Straw.
Yes.
Who was my teacher at I.O., and he said, would you like to do a show? I said, okay, because I was scared to death of him.
Yeah.
And got on stage for 2 people, and we did it for 4 months for 2, and then 4, and then 6 people, and pretty soon the house was packed.
That was Zumpf?
Yeah, it was called Zumpf. And so I would really say that Miles was my first really big advocate and champion in improvisation. It was before I had met you. It was before I had met, really got to know the Kevin Dorfs and the T.J. Jagodowskis and so forth. And, you know, at that point I started to try to figure out who am I and what type of performer am I.
Yeah.
And I said, well, I'm kind of bald, so maybe I'm Bill Murray. And I went, no, I don't, he's so likable.
Right.
And I don't know that I always, I don't know that I benefit as much from likable as I do from sad loser or like really mean person.
Right.
It's like I vacillate between those two.
You're finding yourself, though.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, you know, I mean, I had my favorite member of Monty Python. Mine was always John Cleese.
Yeah.
You know, the Faulty Towers stuff, all of, you know, A Fish Called Wanda.
Yeah.
Which also, you know, Kevin Kline, that sort of stuff. So the influences are kind of all over the place. As I've matured, my comedic influences have become a lot more subtle. It's more of a Noah Baumbach, which, good luck, you know, saying that's comedy to 90% of the country. But to me, it's that kind of stuff. It's Alexander Payne. It's those sorts of comedic minds that are almost more touching. And that's what Legit is. I mean, Legit is really the show that you go, oh my God, I hope my mom doesn't walk in the room in the middle of this episode. And at the end, you're going, what in the world? I'm crying. This guy was supposed to be a comedy, and you got a tear out of me.
Well, I love how you balance the notion of kind of obvious humor, not obvious, but with absurdity, with totally believable absurdity.
Yeah.
Where it's just seamless. It flows, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
And I think, too, you know, again, where you'd underestimate yourself is the talent that you guys have on set to totally accept what's going on, despite its insanity, absurdity, or sometimes being just mundane as well. And it's I find it a great, I love the show. I like just,
Thanks, Joe.
Yeah, it's fun. We did that. Okay, actually, I've got a bonus speed round that we're going to do a little bit later.
Oh, boy.
But we're going to go to you guys first, if that's okay. Hey, Allie, how we doing on time? We're doing pretty well, right? Yeah. Dan's okay. I hear the vodka hasn't really fully
I'm good.
kicked
Don't
in.
worry about me.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, it's a little bit of an opportunity to chat and ask Dan questions directly. So please dig in. We've got a mic over here, right there. Yeah, we'll start there.
How was your life at the Daily Show? Like your work life?
What was your work life at the Daily Show?
The work life at the Daily Show.
Yeah. Did you have set hours? Were you there?
Have you ever seen Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah. Sure.
Remember the boot camp section of that movie?
Yes.
It's kind of like that. That's a very challenging job, you know, because what it is it's the combination of television and news. So it's really more of a news
operation
than it is even comedy or television.
Yeah.
The type of schedule where you may sit in your office for 5 days in a row, Monday through Friday, going, oh my God, I'm not doing anything. And maybe somebody will call you from post-production and say, can you come down and do a Tom Cruise impression voiceover for this weird thing we're going to do about whaling. And you go, I don't know what this is. Okay.
Yeah.
You don't get to see the clip or anything. You just do the thing. You go back to your office for another 3 days. And then they say, all right, you're going to Canada. You're going to Toronto, and you're going to do this piece on, there's this attorney up there that's flying to Mexico and recruiting Mexican citizens to come up and live in Canada and become Canadian citizens. They need people, they need workforce, and they're doing the complete opposite of what we're doing. We're building fences and walls and guns, and they're going, hey, come on up, you know, we got work, you know. And we go up there and go, how dare you?
Yeah.
So you get that assignment. And then you sit down in a room with a field producer who's going to be your on-the-road stage manager, director, confidant, co-creator, and 2 writers, and you come up with a bunch of jokes, a bunch of ideas, a bunch of questions. And the researchers have put together, here are the people we know we can interview about this topic. Take it to John. John looks at it. This all happens in like 2 days, 3 days time. John looks at it and goes, good, change this, change that. I want to see more of this. Go tomorrow. And, you know, tomorrow you're in 3:15 p.m. traffic trying to cross Midtown Manhattan to go out to JFK.
Yeah, get on a plane.
To fly up to Toronto. And you get into Toronto into your hotel after you're through customs and everything. You get into your hotel at 1 a.m. and you sit down and you write more jokes until 3 a.m. And then at 6 a.m. you get up and you go have breakfast together and review the day. And then you go have a 17-hour day of shooting. And then you, if there's still a red eye, you get on the red eye to go home. And if there's not, you go to bed and get up on the first plane in the morning to go home. And then you rest for a couple days while they take all the tapes that you shot and transcribe them. And then once that's done, then the editing process starts. You sit in, edit, and you watch.
You're in the edit then. You're in the composition
You're not,
edit.
you know, depending on who the editor was,
Yeah.
they might go, Bakkedahl, what do you think? And you go, well, I like it. And you go, yeah.
Cool.
Depending on who the editor is. And someone would be like, please don't talk, just sit here.
Yeah.
You know.
But you're helping selections because then that helps your narrative too.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you know what you want to get accomplished in the thing,
Right.
and a lot of times on that show, I didn't know what I wanted to accomplish. I just went, "What's happening? I'm on the Daily Show."
Yeah,
Which wasn't the most beneficial experience for me. But from the moment you're told you have the piece until the night that it airs is usually around 10 to 14 days.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's amazing too because again, while you wouldn't say you're a writer, your sense of composition is absolutely necessary to what you're doing. Even in pre-production where you're thinking, what am I going to get out of these people that I'm going up to get? So, you know, that's what writers do.
Yeah.
Another question. Yeah. Let's go right over here and then we'll come down here. Hi, Emily. Thank you again. Oh, yeah. We'll go Emily first and then we'll go into the back.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
So I absolutely love Veep.
Thank you.
I also love you in The Heat.
Oh, thanks.
So I want to know is how different is acting on a show like Veep rather than acting in a movie like The Heat?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's the difference between acting in film and television. Oftentimes depends on the scope of the character. And on The Heat, I played the albino DEA agent. So if you're going, why do I recognize this guy, but I don't recognize this guy? It might be from that, or it might have been from when I lived here. But in that one, I had a very large role that was, involved throughout the entire course of the film. So it was very collaborative, and there were a lot of things like, what do you think? And I go, oh, I think this. But ultimately, the actually shooting process is pretty similar. There's usually a very early wake up.
Yeah.
And then you sit in a trailer for 5 hours, and they go, sorry, you've been sitting here so long. We're going to use you now. And you come in, and you shoot, and you shoot, and you shoot, and you shoot it.
Yeah.
And they may say, let's do one for fun. Paul Feig was, I've been fortunate. Paul Feig was one of those guys, like Armando Iannucci, the creator and director of Veep, and Jim and Peter O'Fallon on Legit, the people that believed in what I did and how I did it and said, look, man, what am I going to tell you? Do what you do. You know how to do it. And I went, all right, I can do that.
Right.
Which is why I didn't succeed, I don't feel, at The Daily Show, because it was always like, not doing it yet, kid. You're not doing it yet. And I went, I don't know how to do anything else. But I'm not sure I answered your question. But
I have the question to
yes.
follow up on that because I think some of your most important work was done on Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks.
Yeah.
I think that.
The voiceover work I did here at Midway Games in Chicago on Mortal Kombat.
Yeah.
Some of the best I ever did when I was Shaolin, when I was Raiden. Yeah.
See? Now you
Pretty
guys,
good
next
stuff.
time you play Mortal Kombat, you'll be like, oh my God, that's
I know that guy. Did I answer your question? I don't know.
good.
Yeah, good enough.
We
Thanks.
had it back there? Yeah. Hi. Good to see you.
Okay, thank you. So when you're acting in a production, and the screenplay, let's say, isn't the best, but you're acting in the production, and then either, let's say it's on television, it gets very low ratings, or it gets taken off the air, or the screenplay isn't great, and the production doesn't do well at all. People see it, they're like, oh, okay, whatever. What's it like for you as an actor, if that's happened, to have something like that happen?
Yeah. How do you
Yeah.
recover? Does it hit you emotionally? Do you get?
Well, I really haven't had that experience. No, look, here's the thing. I mean, with Legit, we're dealing with a situation where we're underwatched for the type of attention we get from the press,
Right.
and from the people that do watch it. They are effusive about how much they love it.
Fanatical.
Yeah, really, cult type following. But I think it goes back to what I said before, which is if I'm doing this so that millions of people see me, I'm doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
That is part of the reason I do it. Don't get me wrong. Do I want to get noticed in Potbelly? yeah. I want someone to go, hey, man, I love legit. I go like, yeah, I feel good, right? Who wouldn't? There's a rush of endorphins or whatever that make you feel good about your thing be appreciated. But if my goal...
We've got a couple of stalkers here today.
Oh, good.
For you, yeah.
Good, good.
You guys
for me?
For you, yeah, later.
You guys are stalking the wrong guy.
Keep going, though.
I'll take you in. You know, but if I'm doing it because I want that adoration, I'm doing it for the wrong reason. I have to do it because I love the process. My friend James LeGros, who's a big actor, he was in Drugstore Cowboy and Point Break, a lot of great movies. Go look up James LeGros, you'll recognize him. He said to me one time, I said, how do you choose your films? He's done hundreds of films. And he said, Danny, I choose them by, they make me an offer or I audition, I read the script and I look at it and I say, can I bring something to this?
Yeah.
Can I offer something to this project that is maybe not on the paper yet? And that doesn't mean can I change the screenwriter's words. It means can I offer something that enhances and improves this project in a positive way?
Yeah, cool.
And if the answer is yes, I do it and my job is done. If nobody watches it, fine.
Yeah.
But I've done my job.
Do you feel, you know, I have to ask you again, because I thought, I loved your work on The Daily Show. I thought it was great. I think you have a perception about it that I don't see. Maybe they had a perception of you that I don't see, but I thought your stuff, I remember Samantha Bee kind of coming back and forth when you were there as well, and I thought, my God, why don't they put those two in their own show? I literally thought for a while, like, you guys would be the perfect, like, sitcom, or you would be the perfect, you know, I thought you were playing wonderfully.
Well, thanks.
At that time.
I think, and I know you guys can relate to this. You've been in a class, or you've been in a creative situation where you felt like you had something that really worked, and you saw that somebody else got attention for something that you thought might not have been as great as what you had, and you thought, there's a little bit of favoritism going on here, and it's left over from some other thing, and you can't really change that, and that is part of life. That's not just part of show business, that's part of life.
Yeah.
Parents love all their kids equally, but this one's pretty cute, right? You know, and I think that in that case, I don't think that I was necessarily Jon Stewart's favorite correspondent, or even one that he liked.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
Because I had writers, and I had editors, and I had other people, doesn't matter. Other people in the building coming to me, can I talk to you? Sure. I know this is really hard for you, because you're sitting and you're waiting, and other people are out and back and out and back and down, and they're doing it, and you're sitting and waiting. And I want to tell you that I think you're brilliant, and I think you're killing it, and I don't want you to let this affect you. And I want you to know that I had this same conversation with Steve Carell when he was here, because he had the same experience, which was, what's happening? Why doesn't this guy like me? Why isn't this going well? And I'm not saying that I know John didn't like Steve Carell. I'm saying that this is what this other person said.
Just didn't work.
And you know what? That's fine. It happens all the time. It's Second City. You see it. You go, I'm ready. I'm the oldest. I'm ready to go. I've been touring. I'm at who? That guy from Detroit.
Yeah.
What about me?
Yeah.
And this is what we need right now. We need this specific thing.
Well, Carell and Colbert, just to give you the sidebar on that, is they were in Chicago, big stars in Chicago in the comedy business. Both of them had been seen repeatedly by SNL, and no big scratching at their door or anything like that. Steve and Steven both moved to New York, and they're doing the voiceovers for Smeigel's animation with J.J. Settlemeyer.
Ambiguously gay duo, and
they did. And so they're on SNL, but they're not on SNL. Lorne Michaels doesn't really want to see him again, and then Carell years later opens a season hosting it as well.
And I was at that.
Were you there? Oh,
that
my
was
gosh.
my first week in New York.
Yeah.
And John Lutz is a very good friend of mine, a Chicago guy who was a writer. And I said, I would love to come to a taping. He said, absolutely. Brought me in, introduced me to everybody, incling the guys that I had obviously offended when they came to town.
Nice.
And they kind of looked at me like, I think
I know this guy.
And I went, oh, you don't remember me. And I sat in the audience going, I can't believe I'm here. Now, here's the thing. I set a goal. I'm going to go to SNL one day. I meant get on stage and do the show, but I wasn't very specific about it.
Yeah.
And there I was. And I went, mission accomplished. I'm here. I'm watching Steve Carell host SNL, and he goes, I always wanted to be on SNL.
Yeah.
And I never got to be a cast member. And now I'm here.
Yeah,
and it was you could see that he wasn't kidding around. He's being sincere about it.
But you're finding your way like Steve did, though,
Sure.
It's the next step, and it's the next step up.
I could complain, Joe. But if I did, then I'm going to take over. You know, like I had an experience where I didn't work for a year and a half, and I auditioned for everything. I auditioned for 3 different roles on Breaking Bad, for 3 different of the regular roles. I wasn't right for them. It worked perfectly the way it was. It's a great show.
It is.
I auditioned for a ton of stuff on 30 Rock and Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, which thank God I didn't get it because that died. You know, countless movies and TV shows that I auditioned for that I didn't get. And then one day I walk into an audition, and Larry Charles, who is a co-creator of
Goes back to
Curb Your
Cheers.
Enthusiasm.
Yeah.
He's back to Seinfeld and Mad About You and all this kind of stuff. Amazing guy, Larry David's running mate.
Yeah.
Right? And I walk in the room, and this guy casts me the second I walk in the door. And then he tells me this. I go, what? He's the director of Borat. He's the director of Religulous, all this stuff. Amazing comic mind. And when I get home after knowing that I've just been casting this thing, I go, I would have taken those other jobs. Knowing what I know now, I would have waited a year and a half to have this job. Because I did wait a year and a half to have that job, and I didn't have a problem with it because that was the job I was right for, and that was the job I really, really wanted.
Yeah.
Even knowing what I knew about Breaking Bad, I would have taken our show, which no one will ever see.
Right.
Because it was the perfect fit for
Now
me.
you've got a year and a half there, and you're hustling. You're improvising at the same
I was improvising a lot of
How many
time,
nights a week?
I was probably, at that stage, I was probably doing 3 or 4 nights a week.
But at least 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, for our lessons here, it's back to our writing thing too. You get better at writing when you write more. You just write more and you
Writers
get better
write.
at it. And improvisers improvise. It's fun when Dan says something like, well, I didn't work for a year and a half. I know that he worked his ass off in that year and a half, if you know what I mean. And again, just getting that time where the production meets the opportunity, and then it works out. Do we have? Let's do 1 or 2 more questions here. Do we have the mic? Can we go down here? And then I've got to go to the speed round because we're losing time with Danny. Oh, listen, again, he's at I.O. tonight.
I.O. tonight.
8 o'clock, 8:30, and then ETC at Second City tomorrow night. And you got to see one of the 2 shows if you get a chance. They're great.
What's like the process of the Daily Show goes for hiring just the writers? Is there always new people coming in, or is it pretty set in stone and they wait for someone to leave before bringing in new people?
Thank you for standing up. It's a pretty fluid thing over there. You know, they have a staff, at least at the time that I was there, they had about 13 or 14 writers. And in the 2 years I was there, I think they hired 3 or 4. I was only there 2 years. That's a, pretty big chunk. That's, if it's 4, it's 1 every 6 months. You know?
Well, how big's the writing staff?
It's about 14.
Yeah.
12 or 14.
Yeah.
And they're hired the same way writers are hired on SNL and any other show, late night shows. It's through a packet.
Yeah.
You know, you put together a packet, whether that's a couple of treatments of a show that you really like, so write a couple episodes of a show that you already really like.
Yeah.
Have a screenplay, have some sketches, have on Colbert. I know that they at one point I know they were asking people to do 2 threat downs and the word. Because those were segments that he would do.
Yeah, right.
So write a couple of those, write a field piece, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like the style of the show, you're a fan of the show, otherwise you wouldn't want to work there.
Yeah.
Write chunks of that show,
Yeah.
stick them in a folder, and if you come up with better ones, take those out and put other ones in.
Right.
And on the day that it happens, that the opportunity comes that someone goes, hey, they're asking for submissions for Colbert, you
set.
kick, scratch, and claw to find out who can get that into the right hands.
Right. Anybody who has questions on that too, we do that in writing for television. We put your final portfolio together, and some of you know what that entails, but we kill it pretty well in that as well. So you come on in there. Did we have one more? We had back here we had a question. Can we get there? You come over here if you want to go to Allie. She can help you with that as well. Okay.
I'll jump in first. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
Where did you find your comedic voice? What do you credit it to? A specific project or troupe?
It's a good question. I mean, I'm not sure that I'm qualified to answer that. I think you'd have to ask my family. I think I'm largely my father. I mean, my dad was one of those guys that would walk in a room and everyone would, hey, Russ is here! And then it'd be, rah, rah, rah. My brother is a lot more like my grandfather, which is also a very funny guy.
Yeah.
But then as far as maturing as a performer and understanding my own voice, it was with working with a guy named Miles Stroth here in I.O. We did a show that was an hour long, and there was just 2 of us.
Yeah.
And we would do 60 characters or 60 scenes with 120 characters in an hour. And we would just we would create this room. I would sit in this chair, he'd sit in that chair, and we would talk, and we would create a television studio where something was going on, and we'd do that for 10 minutes, and we would have created 40 people.
Yeah.
You know.
Did you?
And I found my comfort. I went, I'm really good at this, this, and this, so I'll stick to this, this, and this.
Did you get a chance to work with Del before he?
I worked with Del close 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I was in the very last class he taught.
Yeah.
It's not like that's some brag. That's just what it was.
Yeah.
He came into class. He wasn't doing well that
Yeah.
night. He sat at the piano. He said, "Never wear white socks on stage." I'm wearing tan socks.
Nice.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah.
His thinking was,
Yeah,
you
it's
should be
earthquake.
dressed professionally.
Yeah, that's
And
it.
if you're wearing white socks, you're not dressed professionally, apparently.
Well, I've got
You know.
Del stories to tell you afterward, but
Yeah.
his closing night, I was at the closing night with him as well, and it was an
Yeah.
amazing piece. Did we have one more? We have one more. You can travel over there if you want. Anybody behind me? You guys have anything? You're good, right?
Fellas?
We're gonna do one more, and then we're going to the bonus speed round.
I know you said you lean towards more like improv, but when you're on your weeks off, when you're not working on anything, do you try to write every day or to like keep your like brain going or?
Yeah, I wish I could say I do. I know I want to.
Yeah.
And that's the problem is
That's
that I
good.
haven't practiced. So of course I can't do it. You know,
But
I'm
you still
pretty
improvise
sure-
though when you're.
Yes.
Yeah, you're.
Yeah, I
how many
still
nights a week
improvise.
now?
I still improvise. I'm down to about 1 every 2 months.
Really? That
Yeah,
because you're
but
working.
I audition several times a week.
Yeah.
Whether it's voiceover auditions
So
or,
you're always,
on
like,
camera
keeping
auditions, right?
practicing and things.
But when it comes to writing, I mean, I look at it and I think, I'm sure Michael Jordan dribbled a ball every day. I'm sure Wayne Gretzky put on skates
Yeah.
every day. You know, so the really brilliant writers. I mean, John Lutz is a great friend of mine, a writer who's writing for Seth Meyers now, who premieres tonight.
Yeah, that's right.
Along with Peter Gross,
Yep,
also
Peter.
a Chicago guy.
Is Peter head writing?
I don't think Peter's head. He's
Okay.
some other
Right
title.
there, though.
But
Yeah.
those guys write every day. They write every day. They just, early on they said, I want to write. I'm going to write an hour a day. Oh, God. And some days it's, and they
Yeah.
write, and some days it's, oh, what? Time's up. I'm going to keep going.
Yeah.
You know? But I have a lot of ideas in my head.
Yeah. Can you recognize, I mean, how immediately can you recognize good writing or bad writing now?
I don't really recognize good or bad writing until I start to try to say it.
Yeah.
I can read it and go, words, my words. Words, my words.
Yeah.
And then when I start to try to say it, I go, that's not how people talk.
Right.
Or, you know, then the story starts to kind of unfold between two people reading it, and I go, this is contradictory, or this doesn't seem like it trucks
Yeah.
with what we said before.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Now, I can identify it in film.
Yeah.
I could sit in a film and go, I mean, my take on American Hustle, for
Yeah.
instance, was that was probably a great idea that they then allowed actors who were not terribly comfortable with improvisation to over-improvise.
Right.
They were over-improvising
Yeah.
because they improvised too much. They over-improvised. And it was
Round it off.
over-improvised. And they improvised it too much.
I see.
Because that's what they did.
Yeah.
It was a day ago. It was a day ago. It was like a day ago. Like a day ago was when it happened. And it's like, you just said that 8 times.
Yeah. Right. Stop.
Editors can cut this and we can move on.
Yeah,
You know?
that's
So
it.
those sorts of things really bother me now. I think now is the over-improvising in
Yeah.
films that begins to bother me. It's what bothers me about a lot of the comedies that I go, this was the take where they just said, let's throw as much stuff against the wall as we can and see what happens. They went, keep it all, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yes, to you, because you were in the room.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. I again, for you writers, well, one of the things we talk about all the time in terms of writing is just do the application, do it over and over. You know, if it's what you do, it's you walk as a writer, you talk as a writer, you take the bus as a writer. Okay, we have a bonus speed round for Dan. Dan, you do get extra points for faster answers in this, and we are keeping the score.
What's
okay.
the language barrier on this?
Yeah,
thing? Am I allowed to
it'll
say-
be simple for you. Are you ready, Dan Bakkedahl?
Yes.
Chocolate or vanilla?
Chocolate.
Short form or long form?
Long form.
Boxers or briefs?
Boxers.
2-door, 4-door?
Ooh, 2-door.
Upstairs or downstairs?
Ooh, downstairs.
Downton Abbey, yes or no?
No.
Good for you. East Coast or West Coast rap?
Metal. Probably West Coast.
Stage left or stage right?
Stage right.
Emily
Oh,
or
Joe.
Charlotte Bronte. This is important.
Ooh, Emily.
Okay, and special double bonus trick question. Who's the best boss you ever had?
Joe Keith.
Ah, give him a hand. Dan Bakkedahl, ladies and gentlemen. Dan Bakkedahl. Thanks, everybody, for being here. This has been The Business of Show. We will see you again in April when we have another big influence on comedy in Chicago. David Koechner is going to be here.
It's a big one.
That's he's almost at Dan's level, but he's working up on it. So we hope to see you then. Thanks again, everybody. Dan's going to stick around for 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, just to say hi to a couple of people as well. So please feel free to hang around. Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Good job, crew. Thank you, Allie. Thanks, both. You were
Thanks, Joe.
Oh my God.
Appreciate it.
Fabulous.
Thank you so
Sure,
much.
you strip yourself out of that thing, and this. See, for us, Dan, this is exactly.
Oh,
what they
yeah,
need.
man,
You
I
know,
work.
the one way I pitch it today.